So, hello Nicolas, hello Elle.
Hi.
We're here to talk about the Neon Demon. Where did the volition to work together come from?
Wow. Well, I heard that Nick was doing a film that had the main character as a female, which was very unlike Nick in his previous films, and so I immediately wanted to be a part of it. I didn't know the story or the script, and so I was thinking that, and then I got a call saying that Nick wanted to meet with me. So it kind of, we were both thinking the same thing, and then I went and met with him at his house in LA, and he told me about the story, and it was from there we started working on it.
And I was in LA working on this movie, The Neon Demon, that I wanted to do, and I've had the idea for a number of years, but it wasn't until now that I decided to make it. But the obstacle, or the main obstacle, was who was going to play the lead. And there was only one person that could do that. There was only one person I had in mind, and that was Elle. But I couldn't say that because then you're in a really bad negotiation situation later on. So I played it really cool, but inside the mission was get Elle Fanning. Oh. And luckily we both agreed.
Yes.
Went out nicely. And how would you describe each other's artistic sensibility?
Well, I think that certain people are born with that thing, and Elle Fanning has that thing, which makes it an absolute, unpredictable, but incredibly out-of-the-body, versatile, interesting, horrifying, campy, humorous, glitterous, excellent experience. So we kind of really bonded on this movie, meaning that we were going to shoot in chronologically order. It was about a 16-year-old girl. Elle was 16 when we started. And we kind of mutated into this kind of character where we basically would travel along making this movie. And we didn't really talk a lot, like, while making it. You're more like, you want to do this, should we try that? What do you think? But we really have like long philosophical discussions.
You can't analyze it. You just have to kind of go with your instincts, and if it feels right, then it's right. It was the most creative experience that I've ever gone through. I felt at least so just free to try things that came up inside of me instinctually. I was free to do them and figure out who the Neon Demon is while we were shooting it. So working with Nick was the most collaborative experience I've ever had. It was very intense, but also, extremely fun as well. So.
Elle, was it a moment when you thought, yes, I get her, I get Jessie, or was it from the beginning?
I think that it was kind of gradually. I knew who she was. I thought I knew who she was when we first started, but since we shot in sequence, you can't help but start to learn more and more. It's like things are slowly revealed to you as you're working, and you'd go to sleep at night and realize more about her to add to her, because in a way she's inside of you, and she starts talking to you and telling you what to do.
And if we're being literal, what is the issue with this obsession of beauty in our modern society?
Well, I don't think it's a young society. I think every society, and I think it's a global and universal theme, which is beauty. That on one level is very superficial, but on the other level extremely complex, which hence means everyone has a very strong opinion about it. It can be very provocative, it can be very experimental, it can be very satisfying, it can be terrifying, it can also be very beautiful. And I think that what we wanted to do was make a film about the horrors of beauty, at the same time the excitement of beauty. We're not here to criticize anything or other than its human evolution. I have a very clear understanding that in the world of tomorrow, the digital revolution will just be even more in control. So the sense of narcissism is probably a taboo that we need to embrace in a way that is much more sophisticated, and I think that's what's happening with the younger generation, is that they're being much more advanced in understanding and accepting who they are. So beauty can become so many different things.
You started your career at a very early age. Mm-hmm. When did you realize that body image could be an issue, maybe for you?
I don't know. Well, I grew like 12 inches in a year. Not 12. No, I was 12. 7 inches in 1 year. That's still a lot. When I was 12 years old. And so for me, I was always like the tall one. And guys at that time are a lot shorter than you. And so, then you start kind of thinking about, your physicality more, because this is a world, the fashion industry, or even in Hollywood, it's a lot about photographs that are taken of you and the way that you look, and that does matter. And then also I went to a regular high school, so being a girl in high school and the pressures of just growing up, but not necessarily even in Hollywood. I think every girl goes through that and can relate to it. So.
Do you think if the main character was a male model, it would have made a difference?
From a personal satisfaction field, women are so much more interesting and complex to be around. From your perspective, what would you think?
Yeah, it's hard because we intentionally kind of made the guy characters in our film like the needy girlfriends in other movies. I can't see the Neon Demon any other way, because it's in the way it is. I mean, it's about women and their obsession with this, idea of beauty, and that's what it's about, women. So it's hard for me to put. It's just not what our movie is. So I don't know.
She's using her body as a weapon. Do you think it's intentional? Because at first she's very innocent, but gradually she's getting more and more darker.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think she starts to become more self-aware, but you can't. I always thought that Jessie was self-aware of herself, even from the beginning of it, because she wasn't always completely innocent or completely. It's just that's the way people viewed her. But I almost felt like Jessie had a past life in a way, and that she knows more, and she might be the one that's tricking everybody else the whole time.
We really wanted to get the idea that Jessie was not so much of a victim. Most of these kind of the mythology of the innocents coming to the big city and being devoured, being corrupted. I think for us, it was more, well, what if the poison came from outside and actually made everyone insane in this situation? What if Dorothy was evil and the wizard was just really confused?
That would have made a sequel. And the ending is very interesting, because it's not the sublimation of Jessie, but it's her fall. So why did you decide to make her the downfall of Jessie?
Well, it's the downfall, or not really.
That's up to interpretation. Dramatically, as Jessie was moving along in the story, it also became very much how everyone else perceived her. So it became like an evolution story of what she represented. And therefore everyone was also reacting to her odyssey. But whether it's a downfall or not, I think it's very much into how you see it.
So I was wondering, why do you think the feedback after the showing in Cannes was so divided?
I think that the subject of beauty and not having a critical point of view on it can be very provoking to certain people, because there is a certain expectation or a certain standard attitude towards the meaning of beauty that is almost become a cliche. And I felt that one of the things that we discussed in the beginning before we made the film and during the process was this film had to have touch on certain elements that Elle, as a single girl, would really react to and have opinions about. And that automatically creates diversity. But I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I was excited about it. It was my first can, and to have I think that that's kind of, it was the perfect reaction and the perfect response to it, because everyone views it differently, and at least they'll remember it.
Yes. And the awkwardness afterwards was voluntary, I guess, the intention of this movie. Your cinema is kind of creating its own style, and do you have plans for its evolution, or do you just, add some darker stuff each time?
Well, I may add some more colorful stuff. You never know. I mean, the saying is always, the darker the drama, the more entertaining it is. But in the end, we're just showmen. We're here to entertain you. And at the same time, create so much chaos that, the essence of creativity is not about good or bad, but it's about having an experience. And, we're from the future, and we make movies for the future. And there, singularity is more interesting than anything else, because it's not what you make, but it's what you stand for. And, that was a trip we were on.
So you said that it was the most creative collaboration. And so what do you think is Nicolas' strength as a director?
Oh, well, I mean, when you see one of Nick's films, you know that that's Nick's films, even without seeing who it's directed by, which I think is it's unique to him, and that's the best thing that you can ask for, I think, is having a stamp on it and having a style, and that's your personal taste. And so people, either you like it or you don't, and that's what I love about it, because it's different.
If the audience were to remember one thing about The Near Demon, what would it be?
I would say Elle Fanning.
Nice compliment.
Yes. Oh, for me now? Yes. Oh, gosh. Beauty isn't everything. It's
the only thing.
How do you plan for your future projects? Do you have a theme in mind, and you just go with it? Like beauty for this movie?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all about what I find interesting, and if I'm ever confused, there are certain people that I ask sometimes, and that can sometimes help me get a different perspective. But I just like to do things that I find interesting. Or sometimes I do things that I don't find interesting because it forces me to see it in a different way. It's like playing a game.
I have a big question about the one scene. It's about the beast, the panther, I guess, what kind of animal it was. And so how would you interpret that? Can you help me to interpret this scene?
Well, it was a wildcat, and it, in the movie's evolution, or the story of the film, it's an introduction to the world that Jesse is about to step into. And it's a world of beauty and danger, and it's just very, very exciting.
Wow.
And it was real.
And it was real.
Yes. Oh, okay.
There on set.
Wow. Working with wild animals.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a particular scene that was hard and difficult for you to shoot?
I think probably the most challenging was kind of point where Jesse changes on the runway. We did that I think we shot it for like 2 days, but it was very intense. I mean, because there's, you know, one part of it which is the start, and then where she ends up at the end of that little sequence without, you know, there's no dialogue, not a lot is happening, but so much is happening inside of her. So to just portray that was one that was, I guess, difficult, but, you know, exciting to get through, and afterwards, and we even knew the story more after it was shot.
This movie is very internal. How do you manage to, you know, express your feelings with only expressions or glances? Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess that's what it's all about, you know, that's what characters are all about. And also I found it great with this because it was like a big photo shoot. It was very physical.
But it's also about having the thing. You know, that's what makes the difference. And you can portray emotions and journeys non-verbal. That's what means having the thing.
Okay, I will remember that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alors à la base, j'avais commencé à écrire en 2009 une sitcom comme Le Prince de Bel-Air.